the countdown has begun. And with just days left until Amy Slaton says I do. The tension surrounding her Halloween wedding is at an all-time high. Fans can't stop asking one burning question: will her sister Tammy and the rest of the Slaton family actually show up when it matters most? Amy has shared glowing selfies with her fiancé, Brian Scott Levorn, at Tennessee's amusement parks, beaming with excitement and reminding the world that there are only 39 days left until her big day. But behind those smiles lies uncertainty, because her family has been divided, and that division may lead to empty seats at her wedding. In the comment section, one follower asked the very thing that everyone else was thinking: have you persuaded your family to attend? The silence that followed said it all. Amy didn't respond, and fans were left wondering if her dream wedding would also highlight a painful truth that the people she loves most might not be there to support her. Tammy has long voiced disapproval of Amy's relationship with Brian. Behind the scenes, the family has raised concerns about Amy's choices, claiming that her personal growth has stalled since Brian entered her life. They point to his past, including time behind bars, and worry that Amy's weight loss journey has slowed down as a result. Those concerns quickly turned into heated arguments, where Tammy, Chris, Amanda, and Misty all confronted Amy. At one point, Amy broke down, asking through tears, "So nobody wants me with him?" Nobody. Tammy tried to soften her words, insisting that wasn't true. But Amy couldn't shake the sting. "If you don't want to be in my life, then you don't have to be," she snapped, storming out of the room. The deeper Amy leaned into her relationship with Brian, the further she drifted from her family. It hurt her to feel unsupported, but it hurt even more to imagine walking down the aisle without her siblings there. As her wedding day grew closer, Amy's emotions spilled over. "None of y'all are coming to the wedding, so why does it even matter?" She sobbed. "It's my day, but it feels like nobody wants me to be happy. My family despises me." Those words cut deep, not only for her but for everyone listening. Rewinding back to where it all began, Amy and Brian first crossed paths at a park performance in 2024. At first, she didn't feel that spark, but Brian's persistence changed her mind. The two began dating, and before long, Amy found herself falling in love again. By October of that year, he proposed, though not with the traditional diamond ring. Instead, he gave her a silver piece shaped like skeleton hands, forming a heart. A choice as unusual as it was symbolic of their bond. TLC fans didn't even know about the engagement until months later when it aired in May 2025. But happiness didn't come without hardship. Amy's siblings raised concerns that she and Brian were moving too fast. Even Amy herself admitted, "We're moving so fast, but it just makes sense." Brian eventually met Amy's sons, Gage and Glenn, who she shares with her ex-husband Michael Halterman. The moment he bonded with them, Amy said she knew he was her soulmate. Still, her sisters couldn't shake the unease, and their doubts often overshadowed moments that should have been joyful. Meanwhile, the sisters continued battling their most relentless opponent, the scale. For Amy and Tammy, win days weren't just routine checkups, they were trials of strength. Moments that determined not only medical progress, but also whether their hopes of a better life could move forward. On one chaotic morning, Amy raced around her house trying to juggle her children, her nerves, and the pressure of being in front of the cameras. She pinned her hair back, her hands trembling as she whispered to herself, "What if I didn't lose enough? What if I let everyone down?" At the same time, Tammy sat quietly in her recliner at the rehab facility, staring at the ceiling. She had worked hard cutting back on junk food, practicing short walks in the hallways, but the doubt never left her. What happens if the scale goes up again? I can't face Amy. I can't face the doctor. Not again. The tension escalated the moment the TLC crew arrived. Their brother Chris tagged along, cracking jokes to lighten the mood. "Y'all acting like the scale is the Grim Reaper. Calm down. It's just numbers." His words earned a few chuckles, but the worry still clung to the air. At the clinic, silence fell as Amy's name was called first. Her heart pounded as she stepped on the scale, her breath shallow. The numbers blinked, then settled. Relief washed over her face, 15 pounds down since her last visit. Her eyes welled with tears, and she hugged the nurse, exclaiming, "I did it. I really did it." Chris cheered beside her, proud of her progress. But the room grew still again as Tammy approached the scale. With the nurse's help, she stepped on, closing her eyes tight, bracing for disappointment. Then came the words she didn't expect. "You've lost 10 pounds, Tammy." Tammy gasped, covering her mouth as tears streamed down her face. For the first time in a long time, she cried tears of joy. Amy rushed over, wrapping her arms around her sister. "You see, Girl, you can do it. We got this together. The doctor entered with a rare smile. You two are moving in the right direction. If you keep this up, you'll be cleared for the next phase. For Amy and Tammy, that weight was more than numbers. It was proof they were stronger than their doubts. They left the clinic lighter not just in pounds but in spirit, more determined than ever. On the car ride home, Amy nudged Tammy and laughed. One day, we're going to look back at these weigh-ins and laugh like divas strutting down a runway. Tammy chuckled through her tears. Yeah, but let's just take it one step at a time for now. That day, the sisters weren't just patients battling the scale. They were survivors writing a new chapter in their story. For years, Tammy and Amy dreamed about traveling beyond their small-town lives. They would sit around and talk about how amazing it would be to see the world. But those conversations always ended the same way, with someone sighing and admitting it would probably never happen. Health problems, money troubles, and family drama kept the dream out of reach. But this time, something was different. After months of planning, determination, and a little help from their doctors and family, the sisters finally said yes. They were going to London. It all started one quiet evening, when Amy sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through photos of the London Eye, Big Ben, and Buckingham Palace. Her face lit up with the kind of excitement that reminded her of being a kid again. Can you believe it, Tammy? We're really going to do this. We're going to London. Fish and chips. Sightseeing, like in the movies. Tammy, sitting in her recliner with her phone, grinned. You know what I'm doing first. Girl, an English breakfast? Beans on toast. Might sound crazy, but I'm ready for it. Of course, the idea of an overseas trip wasn't just about buying a ticket. For Tammy, it meant long flights, medical checkups, mobility adjustments, and backup plans for emergencies. Nurses worked with her to prepare, making sure medication schedules and mobility aids were all in place. Amy, as a mom, had her own challenges packing toys, snacks and clothes for her boys, making sure nothing was forgotten. The packing process was its own comedy show. Tammy struggled to cram her favorite clothes into her suitcase while Amy rolled her eyes. Tammy, you don't need 6 pairs of sunglasses for one trip. Yes, I do, Tammy shot back. One for the plane, one for walking the streets of London. One for when we see the king, because it ain't the queen anymore. I need options. Girl. Their siblings pitched in too. Chris reminded them not to overpack, while Amanda handed them a list of must-see sites. Y'all better take a picture in front of Tower Bridge, she demanded. Finally, departure day arrived. Tammy was nervous, her stomach churning as she rolled through the airport, but Amy squeezed her hand and kept her laughing, reminding her they were stronger than their fears. Sitting in the airport lounge, Tammy looked at her sister and whispered, "This isn't just a trip. This is proof we can do anything." When the plane lifted off, both sisters pressed their faces to the window, eyes wide with tears and smiles. For once, they weren't just watching the world through a TV screen, they were stepping into it. Together London was everything they imagined. The lights, the history, the crowds. It was overwhelming and magical. Eating fish and chips by the Thames, standing in awe outside Buckingham Palace, taking selfies near Big Ben, it all felt unreal. But the trip was more than sightseeing. It was about breaking free from years of limitations and proving to themselves that they were capable of living, not just surviving. Still, not everything was picture perfect. While Amy enjoyed the adventure, Tammy's heart was heavy. Back at the rehab facility, cracks had already begun to show in her relationship with Philip, the man she thought might be her forever. At first, Philip had made her laugh and given her comfort on lonely nights. He told her she was beautiful when she struggled to believe it herself, but slowly, his words turned from loving to limiting. Tammy wanted someone who supported her health journey. But Philip wasn't that person. He dismissed her efforts, mocking her new routines, and saying, "Why do you need to change? I like you just the way you are." To Tammy, it felt like chains disguised as compliments. Amy noticed too. One day, she pulled Tammy aside and said softly, "Sis, you've come too far to let anybody hold you back. You need someone who pushes you forward, not someone who keeps you stuck." Tammy brushed it off at first, but deep down, she knew her sister was right. The breaking point came when Tammy tried to share her hopes about regaining independence and continuing toward surgery. Instead of encouraging her, Philip laughed. "Why do you always gotta talk about change? Can't you just be happy with me?" That laugh cut deeper than any insult. Tammy realized they wanted two completely different futures. The next day, with tears in her eyes but strength in her voice, she ended things. "I love you, Philip, but I can't do this anymore. I need someone who believes in my future, not someone who makes me feel stuck in the past." Philip shrugged and walked away, leaving Tammy both relieved and shattered. She cried that night, mourning what she thought they had, but as she sat by the window, watching the fall leaves drift to the ground, she felt something else to reach. For the first time in a long time, she was making choices for herself. Amy was the first person she called. Without hesitation, Amy showed up with snacks, hugs, and reassurance. "I'm proud of you," she whispered. "This time, you didn't let anyone else decide for you. You chose yourself." Chris kept her laughing with jokes. Amanda offered tough love, and slowly, Tammy's heartbreak turned into determination. "This is my season to change," she told herself, staring at the autumn sky. "I'm not looking back anymore." After Philip walked out of Tammy's life, there was an unexpected quiet that filled her rehab room. For years, her days had been cluttered with arguments, distractions, and emotional noise. Now, with him gone, there was space. Painful at first, but soon it became a space where healing could actually begin. Tammy sat in her recliner, staring at the television but not really watching. Her mind drifting between sadness and determination. She repeated the same thought in her head like a mantra. "This is not the end. This is the beginning." But beginnings are never easy. The nights were the hardest. Tammy admitted to Amy on a late-night call that sometimes she wanted to pick up the phone and dial Philip, just to fill the emptiness. Amy didn't scold her. She just listened, her voice calm and steady. "Sis, the hardest part of change isn't leaving someone else. It's staying with yourself after they're gone, but I promise it gets easier. You've just got to trust the process." The process meant long therapy sessions, difficult physical exercises, and facing her old habits head-on. Tammy's nurse reminded her daily. Small steps add up to big change. And Tammy, to her own surprise, began to notice it. The scale dipped lower, her energy improved, and most importantly, her confidence flickered back to life. Every pound she lost felt like shedding another layer of doubt and disappointment. Meanwhile, Amy's world was spinning faster than ever. The countdown to her wedding with Brian was closing in, and the family drama was heating up. Fans online kept asking the same question: would Tammy even be there to support her sister on the big day? For Amy, the question cut deep. She wanted her sister there more than anything. But every fight and disagreement made that possibility feel further away. One afternoon, Amy sat at the kitchen table staring at her phone. She had posted another selfie with Brian, this one at a Tennessee amusement park. Her smile was wide, his arm around her shoulders, but the comments underneath told another story. Strangers were asking, "Where's Tammy? Will your family be at the wedding?" One even wrote bluntly, "Have you convinced your sister to show up yet?" Amy didn't reply, but she stared at the words for a long time. Tammy, on the other hand, felt torn. Her heart wanted to support Amy, but she also felt the sting of being misunderstood and judged for not embracing Brian right away. She told Amanda during a phone call, "They think I hate him. I don't hate Brian. I don't want Amy to get hurt. She's already been through one broken marriage, and I can't watch her rush into another one without worrying." Amanda sighed. "Then you've got to say that to her, not to us. She needs to hear it from you." But Tammy hesitated, and the silence between the sisters grew heavier as the wedding day drew closer. Amy and Brian's excitement only grew. Brian had picked out the perfect Halloween-themed decorations: black roses, pumpkin centerpieces, even a cake with spooky designs. For Amy, it was more than just a wedding. It was a chance to finally feel like she was moving forward, leaving the pain of her divorce behind. Yet, there was still a piece missing. Without her family's full support, especially Tammy's, the happiness felt incomplete. The tension came to a boiling point one evening during filming. Amy confronted her siblings in tears. "None of y'all are even coming to the wedding. So why does it matter what you think? This is my life. This is my happiness." She wiped her face, her voice breaking. "Y'all act like you hate me, like I don't deserve to move on." Tammy tried to speak, but Amy cut her off. "If you don't want to be in my life, then don't be. I'm done begging for support." She stormed out of the room, leaving Tammy stunned and silent. It was one of those raw moments where nothing was scripted. Nothing was planned, it was just real emotion spilling over. Later that night, Tammy replayed the argument over and over in her head. The truth was, she didn't hate Brian. She didn't even hate the idea of the wedding. What she hated was watching her sister feel abandoned. Deep down, Tammy wanted to be there, but fear held her back: fear of the travel, fear of being judged, fear of facing everyone after so many years of being the center of conflict. But life has a way of forcing decisions. The next wine appointment became a turning point. Both sisters showed up, nervous as always. Amy stepped on the scale first, her heart pounding. The nurse smiled. She had lost another 12 pounds. Relief flooded her face as she hugged her kids who had tagged along. Then it was Tammy's turn. She closed her eyes as the numbers flashed, waiting for disappointment. But when the nurse read out the resultant other 14 pounds down, Tammy broke down in tears. For the first time, she felt like she was not just surviving, but thriving. Amy hugged her, whispering through her tears, "See, I told you. You can do this. You're stronger than you think." That moment changed everything. Tammy realized that showing up for her sister wasn't about perfection. It was about love. She called Amy later that night. "I'll be there. I don't know how. I don't know what it'll take, but I'll be at your wedding. Because no matter how mad we get, you're still my sister." And sisters show up. Amy cried, not just from relief, but from gratitude. For the first time in months, the walls between them began to crumble. As the wedding day approached, fans speculated nonstop online. Would Tammy actually walk into that ceremony? Would the family finally put aside their differences? Nobody knew for sure, but one thing was certain: the Slaton sisters' story was far from over. Their journey had been filled with pain, laughter, love, and setbacks, but it was also filled with resilience. And this wedding wasn't just about Amy saying "I do." It was about proving that no matter how many cracks appeared in their bond, family could still find its way back together. And when the big day finally arrived, Amy stood in her gown, ready to walk down the aisle. She looked around nervously, scanning the crowd, and then she saw her sister. Tammy was there, sitting in the front row, smiling through tears. In that moment, Amy realized something powerful. No matter how messy their journey had been, no matter how many fights or fears stood in their way, love had won. Fears stood in their way. Love had won.